All right, so welcome everyone to this week's episode of Minding Her Black Business, a brunch and build podcast hosted by myself. My name is Kyra Lee, CEO of Blvck Womxn Worldwide, and this week we have a treat, a celebrity guest host in Miss Monica Blair. What's going on, Monica?
Let me tell you, Saturday is unfolding. I have been up, which for what feels like forever, but like with each step in the right direction, I'm feeling more and more energized. So I'm very, very excited to be here this Saturday.
I love it. One step at a time, girl. That's all we can do. We're so happy to have you. It has been a journey this week.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely want to get started with our global footprint. You ladies have killed it, period, with a T this week, okay? We have blown up to 154 cities worldwide in this membership. So for all of you all that have joined, we appreciate you. Starting with the states, we have Arizona, California, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Kansas, Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, what? Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and DC, ladies.
There it is.
There it is. And nationally, we appreciate you all from the States, but it goes one step further. We have the United States, Canada, Nigeria, Botswana, Cameroon, Ghana, Italy, Kenya, Malawi, Namibia, Niger, South Africa, and the United Kingdom checking in for Blvck Womxn Worldwide. Ladies, we are so happy to have you. This week we have a wonderful Know Her Name feature in Miss Mahogany Jonz, an entrepreneur and Black excellence representative that has so much to offer. So let's get into it. First and foremost, Mahogany, we want to know a bit about how you got started in this work. What inspired you? Where did the beginning of Mahogany Jonz come from?
Well, I guess the roots kind of, the beginning of my name started in something really funny. And I guess it started in women's empowerment, but in a funny way. It was a summer, I was about 16 years old. Outkast had just come out. And, they were on their whole, pimping thing, but men were pimps. And I don't know, me and my best friends, we were like, men are not pimps, women are pimps. We're out here pimping. So we made up all these ridiculous names. We came to Florida to connect with one of our friends, and she didn't have a name. And I was like, well, girl, you need a name. You need a pet name. And I was like, it should be Mahogany Jonz. And she was like, I don't like that name. Fast forward, it's college, time for me to go to college. I started doing poetry open mics, and I was just using my birth name, Sharice. And it was like, okay, that's cool. It was all right. But people had amazing names, Serenity, La Quantum Leap. Yeah, right. So I remembered Mahogany Jonz. It's like, oh, Mahogany Jonz. And it just stuck. And, basically just being in the stew of being in New York City and seeing people use art as a means for activism is really kind of what let me know, like, this is what I want to do. I want to use my voice, and I want to use it in a way that says something that creates change. And that was it for me. So pretty much about 20 years ago, which feels crazy. But here we are 20 years later, and I still get the privilege to use my art and my voice to say things and to speak about things that matter to me. And alongside that, to have that be a vehicle that really is like, okay, now you said something. Now what else can we do? So it just inspired me to start something called the Pure Movement, which advocates for women. And we did all different types of things. We did something called Denim Day Detroit, which basically just spoke up and advocated for sexual abuse survivors. We did something for Domestic Awareness Month in October called Pure Purple, and just different things or different events. So yeah, I'm sorry, I might have went a little far out.
No.
Started, but
That's perfect. First, let me say this lock styling situation has me very much inspired. I'm like, It's crazy because I just went to get some stuff to like, finesse the whole. And so kind of speaking of your look, can we kind of talk about how your look and your music evolved? Because I met you at a really interesting time. I met you at a time where your music was very much focused kind of in the gospel direction, if I'm not wrong. I was like, I met you at a really, the flow was always intact, right? So it's like, oh, this is amazing. So kind of to watch your evolution from that space into where you are now, because it's still very much inspirational and you are mindful of your words. I'm going to call it being mindful of your words. But can you kind of like take me through that space to kind of what, kind of broke you out of maybe necessarily boxes? Because I think as we move along creatively, the boxes kind of don't fit anymore, So.
And it's funny because I started off doing spoken word, but I really had an inner MC and I really wanted to rap. Was just too shy, too nervous to do it. Dated someone, he was an MC, would be in Cyphers 3:00 in the morning, like, this is what I want to do. That same year, I was just kind of on a journey. I grew up in the church. It actually happened to be a cult, which was a whole nother story, pretty crazy. But I was pretty much done with Christianity. It was like, I'm all set on this. This is craziness. But even in that war, did something called the Landmark Forum, and it kind of led me to a place. Have you done that?
Yes. You have to, Cairo?
Yes.
Yes.
Love the Landmark Forum.
We'll circle back.
So we have to talk about that. But the Landmark Forum really put me in a position to just really confront myself and deal with some things. And one of those things was that it wasn't necessarily people had done me wrong. People in the faith of Christianity had done me wrong. But had I really had a misstep with God in Christ? No. And that had me circle back to really just embrace my faith of Christianity again. When that happened, it was like, okay, well, met this woman and her name was Tony Blackman, and she had this movement called Freestyle Union, and she happened to be a rapper, and she happened to do a rap boot camp. And I'm like, well, look at synchronicity. I want to rap. You're a rap coach. Let's do it. That opened the door. So that same year when I was exploring faith and learning how to rap, a door opened for me to do something called BET's 106 in Park Freestyle Friday. And I was just, I was not that great. I'd only been doing it for a year. But she put me out there, and I was like, Lord, if you let me win 4 times, I'm gonna give you props. I'm gonna tear these people down, but I'm gonna give you props every time I win. So that's pretty much what happened. And so from there, I kind of figured like I needed to make this contract with God, and it was like, okay, well, you looked out for me. I'm gonna look out for you. I'm gonna do music that honors you. And so I think that had to look like quote unquote gospel hip hop, even though that was a thing then.
Yeah.
And as I continued in my walk with God and continued to really discard of the boxes, God kind of pulled me to the side and was like, that's the deal you made with me. I never said that you had to do it in a way that was like that. I told you to walk with me, let me walk with you, and let me make music through you. Yeah. And that's like, just live your life, and that you don't have to force an agenda on people through what you're doing. Just do what you do and be who you are, and let me live through you. Let's get it. Let's make music. So that's pretty much just where we are right now in this space of, I just want to live life, and my music will reflect my life. And hopefully as I continue to walk with God, you'll hear that if you're listening, and not have to hear a million Jesuses and hallelujahs. That it's godly.
I want to thank you for that, because I think that God comes in so many forms, especially being an artist myself. I want to thank you for that, because it's like I say a whole lot of stuff, and I'm sure people are like, well, I'm not sure what type of person she is. But you and I have known each other for so long, and that people who do dig deeper to know, they know what's essentially there. So I have a lot of respect for that approach, because it's not dissimilar to how me and a lot of other people who do this thing kind of tap into it.
But you know what is funny, when we think about the idea of Christ, and other people have other means in which they connect with God. God is being orthodox. God is in the you have to listen. Are you paying attention? You know, he's not in the synagogue. He's not in the spaces where we want to put him in. And the same thing, he's not in the box.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, we have to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to just kind of live in a way that breathes love, because
Yeah,
ultimately, right? You know, so
absolutely.
You circle back to a couple of things, Mahogany, that I want to tap back into because they were powerful. For you all that are listening in that weren't here to visually see us live, a moment just happened when Landmark Forum was mentioned, and I want to unpack that so we can all share in this moment because I don't believe in being selfish often unless I don't like you. So in this loving space, Landmark Forum is a wonderful tool, and I do want to shout it out because I attend it always. My cousin, Kristen, was the person that introduced me to it, and it's a wonderful tool for healing for Black women. I recommend everyone go.
Absolutely.
One of my key takeaways, and it usually comes from pain. You know, for Black women, first we'll go start an entire nonprofit, take over the world, and heal cancer right after that. But then we come back to ourselves, right? After all the poetry and after all the music, we come back to ourselves and you sit with yourself for a second. And you're like, you know what? I'm still pissed off though. I'm still pissed off though. Like after I've taken over the world and I've created all this content, I'm still hurting. And so that was my journey to Landmark. I was going through a bunch of stuff, post-abusive relationship, all this mess. And I had started two businesses. I sat down and I was sad at night. So I'm like, you know, Kristen, I'm really, really having trouble here. You know, I'm really having trouble here. She's like, oh, you need to unpack some stuff. So it is a wonderful tool to figure out how to show up in resilience, is the way that I'm going to describe it. It will have you address your stories, the things you tell yourself that have been convenient truths, convenient victimizations of things. And my takeaway was, girl, get your power back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it did for me.
Mm-hmm.
Monica, what was your experience with Landmark Forum?
I think the thing that I think that eyes and opinions used to be the thing that really ruled me a lot. Just because I felt a lot of things were projected onto me just over the years. And so my major takeaway from it is that everyone else is having this challenging experience we call being a human. At the same time, it was the one part where they talk about your anxieties, your fears, and all those things. And then it's like, and then they say, imagine that everybody else has those same things.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly that being a breakthrough moment for me. Like, oh snap, this is not an isolated experience. It may come in a different container, but this is not an isolated experience.
Agreed. And what about you, Mahogany? What was your major takeaway from your experience?
Man, it's so funny. You make me want to actually go back and do it again because I did it in my 20s and here we are at 42. But if I can, I just will choose two moments. One was it's a class where they ask you to interview the people in your life, and so you get a chance to see how you show up for others.
Yes.
And that was really powerful for me because I think a lot of times you have blind spots, you know what I'm saying, where you don't really see what's going on. And so to get an opportunity to kind of see yourself and how you're showing up in these different ways in these different spaces was really big to me. The second moment that I can remember was super powerful for me at Landmark was I just really struggled with how I saw myself.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling just not pretty, just whole life is not pretty. And they they said, speak to yourself. And I remember for the first time out loud saying, oh, I'm beautiful. And I remember it was 5 minutes later. So I was, in the room and I said it. I left the room, got on the elevator, and this woman turned to me, looked at me, who wasn't in the same class, just random person. I think I took classes actually at the World Trade Center. And when it was up, and she was like, oh my God, you are striking. You are so beautiful. And was like, what? What? And I don't think anybody had ever stopped me and complimented me on the street before. But the moment that I said it, the moment that I saw it, is when other people saw it, and to realize like, okay, I have the power to how I see myself to make sure other people see me that way, but I need to see it first and I need to speak to that.
Yeah.
Those were two moments for me that really struck me in doing the training.
I love it. I love it. Powerful, powerful, powerful. The second thing I want to circle back to is the faith versus everybody. Let's get into it because we're already here. I love faith versus everybody. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing. So we all know that as Black women, the church is a major part of our creation of identity. There's not many Black women that will come straight through that vein. And what you do with it after the fact depends on your experience, right?
Mhm.
So we're in 2020 and we're sitting around and we're talking about all of these things that need to happen. And there's all these different ways of being approaching November 3rd, right? There's all these different ways of seeing the struggle, seeing the challenge, seeing the opportunity. Let's get into the faith portion of it. For me, I was a girl that was raised Lutheran, okay? And I also went through a couple of disappointments when it came to being a human being and seeking out the promises that this text that I've been taught give me, right? When certain things are happening in your home, you're supposed to be able to go to the elders in the church. When certain things are going on in life, you still, supposed to be able to sit down, pray about it. And there's some resolution that I'm supposed to be able to hold some being, physical or not, accountable for,
Mhm.
right? And then you get grown and find out none of that is coming through. None of that is about to happen.
Els is not looking out. Where's God? What's happening?
And then you get mad at this amazing creator, right? Like, but you said, and I'm still waiting on that thing that you didn't directly say, this human being said to me. And now I have all these hurts and disappointments. So my question to you, because I thought it was powerful, was you went through that moment and it shows up differently for everybody, but you went through the moment where the church itself disappointed the hell out of you. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
what was the work to get back to faith? Not necessarily the church, but to get back to your faith.
Oof.
I think it's funny because and I have a new freedom. So, God will come back and correct me if I'm off and I shouldn't be using certain language. But, life has a way of knocking you on your ass. You know what I mean? And really bringing you to these moments where it's like, okay, what's real? What's really real? And I need to know what's really real because this is a little bit too real for me right now. And in my 20s, I went through one of those moments. And here I am at my 40s, definitely going through one of those moments. But that in particular was like, okay, I don't want all the frills. I don't need all the bells and whistles. Like, God, if you're real, I really need you to show up. And I just began having these moments where it's like, okay, I'm not going to necessarily read the Bible right now. I'm just going to talk to God. And what happened for me, which is dope, I found the book. It was called The Artist Way. And it suggests that you take yourself, out on artist dates. But those dates turned into God dates. It was like, yeah, I was taking my artists out, but it was like, man, God, I'm taking you out. I know that you're real. I've had experiences with you. And I need you. So where are you at? And I would journal and I would write. And I said, oh man, I can't think of the book. Conversations with God. And it was this man who would write and God would write back to him. And I found that experience happened to me where it was like I would write and I'd have certain questions and I'd be still and then the solutions would pop up on the page. And it'd be like, oh, okay. I would find myself praying out loud as just talking to God out loud. And I'd see a billboard that would speak exactly to what I was going through, or I would be walking and I'd have a random conversation, but it would speak to a conversation that I had with God. And I just found God showing up in all these amazing ways and really trying to get at me. And it was like, oh, you're real. Like you're for real, for real. And it was just in that. And like I said, when I did the Landmark Forum and came to the idea that I really just had commitment issues. And it was just like, I realized like, okay, Jesus, I do believe in you, but I am afraid to commit 100% because I was so deeply disappointed. Like I was hurt by everything that happened. And again, just in those conversations with God, just God letting me know like, okay, like I'm real, my son is real and I'm going to show up in real ways for you. Like you can test me, you can trust me, you can try me. And Yeah, and just giving me what I wanted most. I was so deathly afraid to MC. I was afraid to rhyme. I was afraid to put myself out there. I'm such an extrovert introvert. I'm really an introvert. Um, and when he began to put me on stages, and when he began to give me the very gift that I wanted most, I went from like sucking to like being like, here I am. I eat off this, you know. Sometimes that days, you know, some days better than others. But he gave me my heart's desire, and he continues to just show up, and that is what really brought me back to that space of, okay, God, I'm going to talk to you and let you know that you hurt me, and I'm not going to hold any bars. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. And I'm cringing. I'm waiting for lightning to strike down, but when lightning didn't strike me, and he was just like, okay, I understand that. And what about this? It was like, okay. So yeah.
That's so incredible.
Mhm. I love that. I think that there's a lot of good meat there in terms of as we're starting to as we're starting this walk toward November 3rd for our listeners, I think it's very important that we have this discussion about representation, right? Because for anybody that attends formal church, synagogue, mass, whatever your situation is, I'm a huge fan of whatever makes you better as a person.
Mhm.
If that makes you better as a person, do that thing. If it's Buddha, that's what's up. If Jesus does it for you, that's what's up. If Muhammad
Mhm.
the guy, I love that for you.
Mhm.
As long as you are a good human being that is good to
Mhm.
others, I'm good with whatever that looks like.
Mhm.
But I do have a challenge for our representatives, whether we're talking about government or we're talking about faith. You represent a real entity. You do. Whether you believe it or not, in these times we're living in, you are representing a living energy that has sentient opinions about what happens in its name.
Mhm.
So
Ooh,
when you talk
wow.
about pastor, when you talk about reverend, when you talk about prophet,
Right,
whoever you deem your title to be in this, I
right.
do want you to be mindful of the fact that your actions represent an actual
Mhm.
body.
Mhm, mhm.
And you
Mhm.
are messing up a spiritual experience for people
And then people.
when you misrepresent
Mhm,
that being.
Yeah.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
Monica, would you say? I mean, you really are.
I find more divinity in like the homeless person on the street often than I do in like religious spaces. And also I have a lot more, yep, I said that, Danielle.
mhm,
And often, and I say it only because there's a level of transparency when you're vulnerable, and living that way forces
mhm,
you to be vulnerable and at the behest of other people's kindness. And
mhm,
most of the time, when you find people are claiming themselves to be some divine thing, and this is not everyone, but
mhm,
when you are claiming a divine moniker and that God, and that you truly are a vessel of God, which I think is something artists do effortlessly, like
mhm.
without a whole lot of coercion involved, because there ain't enough money in it to be coerced.
Right.
um I think that you become a servant to the trappings, you become a servant to the power, you
Mhm,
become a servant, and you are not a servant to the people, and you are not a servant, and you become far less obedient to the
mhm,
voice, and you have a lot less room, if any room, to be a
mhm,
vessel. That's
mhm,
my thought on that.
I
mhm.
love that. I love
Yeah. And I kind of want to speak to that as well. I feel
Mhm.
like there's something that happens with man and institutionalization, you know, and at this phase of where I am in my walk with God, and what that looks like, my husband and I, we have conversations all the time about this, where something ain't right. Something ain't right. That's the best way to say it. Something's not right, and we it is on us as the people to figure out what that is. But the structure and the way that things are set up is just like you said, Monica, it's a certain lack of honesty, transparency, vulnerability, and being in America, it's just this layer of capitalism, and everything is transactional.
It's a
That
propaganda model. It's a
yeah,
propaganda model. I'm
yeah.
here instead of really being here to advocate for the people. Government really means controlling minds. The word government means to control minds. So if your job is to control minds, you have no spiritual capacity as far as I'm concerned, none whatsoever. You don't even have the presence of mind to truly, even the people that we look to that are these beacons of, there still is a layer of a layer of control, a layer of muck that's kind of on it, because at the end of the day, your job is to control people's minds. I'm good on you.
That's deep.
I don't even know what to say. I just got to sit with that. I haven't looked at it like that, but I'm like, and that's true. And and I think it even leads to the conversation. So like, I guess last week I had a moment, where I kind of had to check myself. Planned Parenthood approached me and asked me to, be an artist for like their 104th birthday celebration. And of course, I personally being someone who believes in pro-life, but I, was like, but I thought about it and I'm like, God gives us choice. That's the whole thing that makes God so dope, right? Is that we get free will. Who are we then to assume and to take away free will? Who are we? So I just feel like, just speaking to that whole like controlling piece, like, yeah, that hit it.
I want to circle back to the second part. Because in this 2020 thing that we're trying to figure out, I would be so bold as to say that you're going to need a bit of faith. Right now, as Black women, we're going to need a bit of faith. At the end of the day, you're going to have to believe in something to get through this, flat out. And I do resonate with, whether we like it or not, there's a lot of church in the Black community. No matter how woke you get, how well read you become, how well traveled you get, it's in our DNA. It is. And separating the faith from the mouthpiece, from the moniker, from the talking head, is so important, because the faith has nothing to do with an individual. The faith comes from your personal experience. So Mahogany, my question would be, when things get really rough, especially as a female MC, because that's a whole separate lane in itself, where does your faith come from? What do you lean on when times get tough for you?
Like I said, I mean, it really all goes back to that individual connection with God. That I never doubt. I'm just able to go to God with everything, and I just feel like he always shows up for me, and again, however people see it, again, I subscribe to kind of what you do, what makes you better, run with that, but yeah, it's not, I feel, and it's definitely been a very real season for me, with it being just all the news in my life, on top of a pandemic, on top of a race war. It's been a lot to wrestle with and to deal with, and through it all, to just be able to just have a conversation with God, and for him to just place me in different circumstances where it's kind of just like, okay, I know you hear what you need to do. Let me help you out, and let me just kind of alter some things and move some things around in your life, so you have to do what it is that I really need you to do to get to the next place. How about, I really need you to learn how to be still. Like, I need that busyness that is like your go-to response because of like past traumas. I need you to really slow down, and I need you to feel. How about we take you out of situations where it's popping, and we just bring you to a place of where it's a little slower? How about you get married, you just move to Daytona? How about we do that for you? Because you don't really know how to be still and just sit down somewhere. I need you to do that.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
So I just find, like I said, like my connection and my conversations with God, and the way that he handles me and deals with me, is what keeps me in connection, or just keeps me in faith, and to just know that ultimately it all works out. It all comes together. It all works out. If you're willing to work, it all works out.
Yep.
And even when you're not willing to work, it's a little uncomfortable,
but it works out.
It all works out.
Right. So I have a question. This is piggybacking off of some of what we're talking about, but in much more of a real world realm. Have you seen the 40-year-old version?
Yes.
Okay. And just for a brief synopsis for folks that haven't, because I know this is gonna people are gonna hear this again. The 40-year-old version is basically a Netflix film, and I can't remember this phenomenal talent that is like
Rada Black.
Rada Black. There it is. I knew her first name. I couldn't remember the last name. She's from New York. She really created this film opus around being 40 years old and kind of transitioning into being a rapper. So my question to you is this. We know we don't do boxes. We know we don't do things. We know that we are in a space where representation is becoming more and more visible and viable in every aspect of where Black women show up, right? But beyond that, what happens when we have representation that like feels so far away from where we are or so close to where we are? And I only ask that question as somebody who raps, but also I am in support of so many women in hip hop. And kind of I was cycling through my mind as I saw this and I said, I don't know any of this. None of this makes sense to me. Speak to that a little bit.
It's everything. We need representation. You know, I think I really went through, you know, and you was here with me in this space. You know what I mean? I think 2017, 2018, again, was a phenomenal year for me, but a really rough year for me because I was really battling with that. Like, just what am I supposed to sound like? What am I supposed to look like? I still rap. This trap thing, I don't do the trap thing. Should I do the trap thing? Man, I've been doing this for a long time. You've been at this for 20 years. It's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. What do you have to change? Do I have to change a lot? Do I have to totally be who I am? Oh my God, I should just disappear. I don't know what to do with myself. Do I even have a voice anymore? You know, and that was for real. So to finally now, here we are 2020, to be in a space of, again, that whole faith thing. Like, no, I need you to be exactly who you are. I need you to say exactly what you're saying. I need you to look exactly how you look. And if that changes, that's okay too. You know what I mean? Because you are a representation for somebody who's like, I didn't know there was one of yous. Oh, there's one of yous? Great. Thank you, because there's one of me's and I don't see lots of one of me's. So I feel like representation is so important. And I feel like especially being a creative or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever your business model is, really just holding to your guns. And even if you don't see it, being it until you see it is so important. Because you know, when she did this film, who would have thought that this would have made sense? But looking at me and you now, think about it. How many 40-year-old rappers do we know? How groundbreaking is it that she, as a woman, as a Black woman, is breaking the ageism that has so long suffocated hip hop?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to be 40 and to be grown and to be a creative. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. That's more than okay. Actually, we need adult contemporary hip hop in the world. Because guess what? Now we grown and we're doing grown things.
And a lot more to say and a lot more significant and profound impact with the words that are chosen. Yep.
Yep. So it's everything. And when we don't have that, I feel like we feel invisible and we shrink. As women, we shrink already, but I think, and it's a detriment. It hurts us to not be represented and to not create representation.
I'm loving the energy between both of you all for the standpoint of I sit back and watch this and I pull the lesson for the people in the back. That's my only thing in life. It's the only thing I'm good at. Everything else is just fun and tricks. But I think it's so important.
Hush. It's not true.
So important based on this exchange for us to highlight that you are always arriving as a Black woman.
Yes.
You're never late. You're always arriving to the moment. And in that moment, I think it's very important that we normalize having the courage to be the first that shows up as you. There are so many shoulders that we're standing on in these moments. And when you show up and you're like, dang, I wish I looked a different way. You know, I wish my chest was one thing. I wish my waist was something else. I wish my behind was this. I wish my hair would do that. No, baby girl, because there's a little girl right behind you that needs you to look like you so she can be okay looking like her.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that there's a woman ahead of you that made it all right for you to walk through this door and stand on these 2 feet and say the words that you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of us that are having struggles, because like we said, there's a pandemic, there's a race war, there's an election coming up, there's a lot of defining moments back to back. 2020, you've been real dramatic, ma'am. You've been doing a whole lot.
Oh,
The
wow.
Meadows.
Too much.
Doing a lot.
The Meadows.
We've had a whole lot of years, but 2020 is a very dramatic person. And that's okay. That's okay. You know, it's fine. But I will be looking forward to this dance when we part ways.
Wait, wait, shout out to Danielle.
Shout out to Danielle.
The chat's popping. I don't know what's happening, but
Just
the
a
chat is everything
raggedy.
right now.
So for those who are listening in, it's very important that you have this live experience. There's a layer of transparency that you got to be here to receive.
True.
Okay, my business chat is the truth. But I do want us to honor the fact that I really would have traded some of those etiquette classes for some realness about what 30 to 45 was going to feel like.
Boo. Boo. Boo.
So I want to take a couple of moments here to do what was not done for us as women still arriving. I could have traded the soup spoon for what 35 was going to look like.
Ma'am. Yes,
No
ma'am.
shade to any parent because you were parenting in the best way that you could. But for Black women, while I was busy trying to be great, there were some steps that I missed. Like, let's talk about the fact that being sleepy at 9:30 is a real thing.
You know what? The way I'm not really about to agree with you on this too, because some people are built like Tigger. Some people are built like cheetahs. They do it in short bursts. I'm doing a thing and then go take a nap for 2 days. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we actually did talk about pace the other day, Mahogany. Remember we were talking about pacing and how things change based on how you level up in your own life and being able to, So I think this is the perfect moment. The other day we were talking about, I said, hey, it's been a long time since we really talked. You have a lot of new development in your life. Like you are now a wife, you are now a mother. So I think this is the perfect caveat to what Kyra is talking about, the whole idea of what does it look like on a day-to-day basis to come to that level of evolution and to be committed in faith to that new space.
So the whole kit and caboodle, and it's funny because I invited my older daughter, to be in our conversation because of just that. And we talked about that this morning, is that I think our parents do the best that they can in parenting us, but then they miss certain pieces, and how it's important to have that older women teaching the younger women. It's important to have that village. It's important to have that network of, okay, I got this piece. What piece you got? Because it's certain things that we are just unprepared for. And we need to do a better job at letting people know, like, hey, this is coming up. I think a lot of times people sell us the flash, and people sell us this is the best thing ever. And then when you get it home, you're like, wait, you didn't tell me about this. Read the fine print. And I feel like, with being a wife, with being a mother, what I'm saying? Like, it's definitely, it's amazing, right? But then it's that, you better read the fine print. Like, these are things that you should be preparing for and be ready for. So you really have an amazing experience and you're not feeling like, I wasn't ready for this. And so I guess let me just help a few women out and just kind of like speak to the things that you should have in your kit, or you should kind of start getting ready for, so that you really get to enjoy it. I think the first thing that I would say, that I'm constantly working on, really get your image of how you see yourself together. To yield and to give yourself to someone, and to be open enough to give yourself to someone, you really have to be okay with who you are. Because when you're not okay with those spaces, you're constantly nervous and you're constantly checking to see if they're okay. right? If are they okay with you're not okay? And it's like, yo, I can't, you know what I mean? It's like that's a lot to ask from a person. You know what I mean? So it's like I've really spent the season of just being okay with all of my things that maybe I wasn't okay with before. And it's like, yep, this is who I am. I accept it. I'm working on. And the things that I don't accept, okay, let's work on it. Let's polish it. But that's major before you want to like tie your life to somebody. Like really be okay with you because you just have to be secure. It's it's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to come at you anyway and be in a relationship. It's a whole bunch of insecurities because it's still other people in the world. You're still attracted to other people. You still find other people attractive, and you have to really be committed to being committed to yourself, and that no matter how it works out, it's going to be okay. You leave, I'm okay. You stay, I'm okay. But it's all great. So that's number one. I would say number two, the practicals, get those practicals in order. Like going from being single and just living my life, living la vida loca, traveling, I'm barely home, I order out food, to like you're home all day long and you're gonna cook, like, and you should figure out how you want the house to look, and you should know how to clean. Like those are real things. Like having WAP, great to have WAP, but then you gotta clean your house and you gotta be good at it. Like figure that out. Like, so look up some YouTubes, get it together. But that's a real thing. Definitely been a struggle this 2020. Domestic life is a whole skill.
Yeah.
Like when the house is orderly and I actually cook something and it tastes decent, I'll be feeling like I did that. And it's like, okay, you still got work to do. You know what I'm saying? But like that's for real. Like get that together, practice, find women to practice with, but don't negate that. Like unless you have like lots of money and you can afford a maid and you can afford a cook, you don't want to get that together because you want for a happy home and a peaceful home and an orderly home. So that's a big deal. That's something I'm working on. So being transparent. Any tips? I'm all for the tips. Pass them on. Tell me. Talk to your sister. Get me together. And I say the third thing is really get done everything that you want done. Don't think that getting one thing is going to fulfill another thing. Like I'm really happy with what I did musically and with my career, and I'm still doing, but I'm at peace. I can't imagine what this would be like maybe even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and trying to chasing two rabbits, you're going to lose both.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like be cool where you are in your career. Make sure that you are with someone that supports your purpose and that gets where you are, because that can be a whole nother area of contention while you're trying to get something and they're trying to get something, and just not being clear about what it is that you want and what you want to get to. Be clear, have those conversations. And yeah, being intentional, just having, if you're used to always being on the go, being okay with slowing down. My husband's always talking to me. Trey is always like, yo, you need to you busy, just relax, enjoy it, be in this moment, be in the right now. And I'm like, but we gotta do it. Why don't you be in now? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be in now. Oh, but there's so much I want to. Okay, now. So yeah. So it's a great learning curve. I mean, it's been amazing. I'm so grateful to have family and to just, it's beautiful. And you want to keep it beautiful. So all those things help keep it beautiful to me. Yeah.
Gems. Those are absolute gems. For those of us that are listening in that are all over the spectrum, as Mahogany's talking about, from single best life, to ninth marriage and feeling fabulous wherever you happen to be, right? I think it's important. I think it's important because I think Black women, and I want us to leave this in 2020. We're not taking this into 2021. I need us to be okay where we're at. I just do. I think that where we are in our relationships weighs on us as women so much. It weighs on our self-esteem, on our image of ourselves. Who you're with is not a reflection of who you are. Where you are is a reflection of who you are. It's two very different things. And so talking from a person that has been extremely independent, you took a route of self-expression that is both empowering and vulnerable at the same time as an artist, because as artists, you and Monica are always giving energy out. People don't get that part. Oh, I'm sitting here dealing with my favorite between healed Mary and hurt Mary, and we're talking about the differences. Mary was having life experiences to give you these feelings, honey.
Mm-hmm.
She was living the pain and the weight of those moments and the joy and the weight of those moments for you to sit here and critique over coffee. So, as artists, I think it's very important that we honor the both of you for your sacrifices so that we can sit over coffee and just critique. I think it's very important to say thank you to you both for allowing us to just have those moments to reflect. But you mentioned something, Mahogany, that I thought was important. You said that there's a mindset shift
Mm-hmm.
when you move from being the woman that is, we'll say, visiting the streets to the woman that
Yeah.
is now visiting your home.
Yes.
There's a mindset shift that happens. For you, what did some of that look like? What were some of the real moments you had to just check yourself on? Like, you know what, we're doing this differently now.
Oof. Shoot. All 2020 was real. Was a real. Was a real moment. Just yeah. I think. Oof. Um. Yeah, I would definitely say the level of responsibility. I think me realizing like what wasn't a big deal before, like my house, my apartment, it was functional. It was cool. Like I wasn't worried about my apartment because I was out and about. I was road furniture, like our West Indian brothers and sisters say. You know what I'm saying? I didn't care. It was like, yo, I point A to point B, like I'm hotel. That's where it's popping. Where are we going? What's the next country? What's the next city? Like that's where I'm trying to be. Like I'm not trying to be home. I'm trying to be at shows. But now being at home and realizing like, okay, my partner, he likes things a certain way. You know what I mean? And realizing too, just that it's not about you. That it is about you, but it's not about you. When you decide that you're going to be in a relationship with someone, my partner is super considerate. And I think a lot of times because I grew up an only child and I spent so many years not in a relationship by myself, that it was about me. Who else was it about? I mean, I'm giving. I love people. I love to serve people all day. But when the door is closed, it's all about me. Now I got to think about you. What you who? Oh, so wait. I'm like, okay, you like things a certain way. Well, make them a certain way. I do for myself, But I think that was mind shift. A big mind shift is being considerate and considering another person, and really taking time to be still, to observe and to watch. For me, I'll tell you what I want, and I think when you love another individual, you try to learn that person, study that person, and you have time to watch and study a person. For me, because I want things done and I want to get things done, that's not the way that I do. Just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Oh no, you want me to observe and watch you and then kind of do those things? I don't want to do that because that takes a lot of time. I got a whole bunch of other stuff to do. It's like, okay, people don't like to be multitasked. Hence another mindset shift. I'm very much a multitasker, thinking that, oh, I can do all these things at once and it's going to come out great. And it's like, no, do the one thing, take time with the one thing, pay attention to the one thing, cultivate the one thing, and then move and cultivate that next thing. Like when it's you and you're moving by yourself, sure, all day that works. But now you have children and you have a husband, and those things cannot be multitasked. People cannot be multitasked. There's a problem with the country, right? It's like you can't run a country, you can't run lives like a business. You have to run lives like these are lives. These are living entities with needs. Um,
Woo.
and so those have been the major mind shifts, is the be still, take time, pay attention to the task that you're doing. If you don't, then you'll do it poorly. And it's if I can get this nugget, I feel like it's going to really enhance not only my home life, but it's going to really enhance my career. I'm the type of person who I hate revision. How it come out is how it come out. I love freestyle. I'm an amazing freestyler. That's how I do. It comes out dope. I did it the first time. It's great. And it's like, nah, how about you go back and you make it better? How about you go back? How about you take your time with it and it be amazing as opposed to just good?
Mhm.
So all those have been big mindset shifts that I'm still working to shift. And I know my home will be all the happier as I master those shifts. So yeah.
We are super grateful for you in this space, Mahogany. This conversation has been power. This has been light. This has been faith and energy. I mean, phenomenal. Where can people find you? Because we are here to support you, girl. Where can we find you?
Thank you for the support. So I'm all my music is available on all streaming platforms. I have a new single out. It's called Melanin. Shout out to my husband, Dre Marshall, and the 30s. He produced it. He produced my new EP that's coming out called Indigo. And so yeah, my two new singles that are out right now, Black Girl Magic and Melanin, all streaming platforms. Please download my website, www.mahoganyjones.com. Instagram is just like how it's spelled on the cover, which is MAHOGANYJONZ. I know that's a mouthful. And yeah, I'm on the gram, I'm on Facebook, I have a website, but I'm definitely on all streaming platforms. So please go get the new singles and then backtrack and see what's going on with some of my older works. And yeah, that's it.
I love it.
Woo-woo.
Beautiful, beautiful. So right here at Black Women Worldwide, we always want to incorporate these type of conversations because they're on par with our mission. And having a mission is important. Got to stick to the mission. So for ours, Black Women Worldwide is a charitable nonprofit. We are a 501c3 that was established for the education, advancement, mentorship, wellness, and financial success of Black women in all walks of life. We recognize COVID-19 as the largest disruptor to the status quo in our lifetime. So during this 2020 global pandemic, a team of brilliant Black women analyzed the existing realities of millions of Black women across the globe. And what we found out in that data is that our pain and our frustrations are not isolated. So using a global lens, we seek to develop the technology necessary to make protecting and supporting all Black women and our ventures sustainable. We have a four-prong approach. First, we use tech and teamwork to create the first global database of this kind. We connect individual Black women and their children with solutions powered by Black women using your mobile phone. We seek to break barriers for Black women-owned brands and businesses through education, capacity building, community, and connection. And finally, we build bridges like today to repurpose the $1 trillion annual Black spend for the personal and professional development of Black women worldwide. We always close each of our podcasts with 3 asks because your impact matters. We ask you all to get involved. Our website is www.blvckwomxnworldwide.org. We ask you all to register, to donate, to get involved, to pick a committee, to do the work. Because as Black women, we have a lot ahead of us, and all 2021, we are getting it done for Black women. The second is a mindset shift. We ask that Black women who listen into any of our programming seek and connect one another on purpose. When you see the Black girl in the bank, go to her line. When you're investing in a business, find a Black girl to invest in. When you're seeking to spend money, find a Black woman source on purpose, with intention, because it matters. Statistics show that when you empower one Black woman, you empower 9 households. So let's get this done and let's get it done quickly. Finally, tell our story. Black Women Worldwide is here for all Black women across the globe, as our name suggests, period. And we are expanding leaps and bounds every single week. We have never not had a week where either our city or membership did not grow, and that is a testament to you ladies, so we thank you. This week coming up is a bit unique in that our official launch will be hosted on Sunday, November 1st, virtually on Zoom, and we would like you all to attend. It's going to be amazing. Mahogany, I would like to personally invite you, lady, to please.
I've been hearing buzzings about it. And so I'm happy to get to, I was telling Monica, I was like, oh, well, let me see what's going on. And I saw you speak a few places. So I was like, oh, she's lovely. This is great. What's going on? So I'm there.
I love it. I love it. And thank you. Monica Blair will also be doing a special presentation in this global space. We do ask everyone to show up in their cocktail attire finest. This will be an introduction of historic proportions between Black women from all continents. Yep. We have over 19 countries that have registered, and we want you there to hear what is being said, to share in the love and support that is being built. This bridge will not be broken, and it's ours. So I can't wait to see you all next Saturday, same time, same place. We will have our celebrity guest host, Monica Blair, back on this podcast to run it back for the people. And Mahogany, I would like to have you back in future weeks because I have enjoyed this
Please.
conversation.
As did I, and I definitely can't wait to just partake. Thank you.
Thank you. So you ladies have a wonderful week and we'll see you same time, same place next weekend.